Welcome! Today, we're going to build a fortress. But, not with stone and mortar. We're building it with strategy and with code. We are diving deep into corporate cybersecurity, and we're using the Australian government's Information Security Manual as our blueprint. The goal? To build a defense that can stand up to pretty much any modern threat. All right, let's lay that first stone.
So what really holds a strong cyber defense together? It's a critical question, right? Because the answer isn't just about having the latest antivirus software or the most expensive firewall you can buy. True security, it's an entire architectural framework. It's a complete system, designed from the ground up to protect, to detect, and to respond. And to really get a handle on that architecture, we're going to build our fortress together, piece by piece. First up, the foundation, the 5 core principles of cybersecurity. Then we'll meet the architects, the leadership roles that actually design the strategy. After that, we'll get into the blueprint itself, the documentation and system hardening that makes it all strong. Then we'll look at securing the physical gates. And finally, we'll assess just how strong our fortress is using a cyber maturity model. Look, every great structure has to start with a solid foundation. And in cybersecurity, that foundation is built on 5 core principles. If you get these wrong, well, everything you try to build on top of them is at risk of just collapsing. They really are the bedrock of any truly resilient security strategy. So here they are, the 5 core functions: govern, identify, protect, detect, and respond. It all starts with governance. That's about setting the rules and the culture. From there, you identify your assets, you protect them, you detect when something goes wrong, and then you respond to fix it. But look closely at the arrows here. This isn't just a straight line. It's a continuous, looping cycle. You are never done with security. You are always, always improving. Let's zoom in on that very first function, govern. Now, this isn't just about having a bunch of rules. It's really about leadership. And the crucial point is that it has to start at the very top. You need someone like a Chief Information Security Officer, a CISO, to provide that clear leadership. Security can't just be an afterthought. It has to be woven right into the organization's main risk management framework. And get this, no system should ever go live until its risks are understood and formally accepted. Okay, so how do we actually build the walls? Well, that's the protect function. It's all about creating layers of defense. First, you shrink the target by reducing what we call the attack surface. Then, for whatever is left, you control exactly what can run on it. You also make the data itself totally unreadable through encryption. And finally, you limit who has the keys to the castle with the principle of least privilege, basically giving people only the access they absolutely need to do their job and nothing more. So we've got our foundational principles down. But a fortress doesn't just design itself, right? So who are the architects? In any organization, this really comes down to leadership. We're talking about the key decision makers who draw up the whole strategy and oversee its construction. And this slide breaks down those 2 key roles perfectly. On one side, you've got the board of directors. They're handling the big picture strategic oversight, making sure security actually aligns with business goals and really championing that security culture. And on the other side, you have the CISO, providing that hands-on operational leadership on the ground. You can think of it like this. The board decides why we need security, and the CISO figures out how to get it done. Any strong fortress needs a really detailed blueprint. In the world of cybersecurity, this means having clear documentation and doing something we call system hardening, which is just a fancy way of saying we're reinforcing our digital materials to make them way tougher to break. So this is basically the blueprint for every single system. The system owner has to follow this rigorous 6-step framework. You define the system, you select the right controls, you implement them, and then this is the important part, you assess if they're actually working. Only then is the system authorized to go live. And, just like our 5 principles, it doesn't just stop there. You have to monitor it continuously throughout its entire life. Now, one of the most powerful hardening techniques out there is something called application control. The best way to think of it is like a super strict, pre-approved guest list for your computer. Instead of trying to keep this impossible list of every single piece of malware out there, you just define what is allowed in. If a program isn't on that list, it doesn't run, period. It's a really simple concept, but it has a massive impact on your security. So what does that guest list actually control? Well, it blocks all the usual suspects, any unauthorized executables, scripts, installers, even things like drivers. Basically, anything that could change the system and isn't explicitly on that allow list gets denied by default. This one practice can neutralize a huge percentage of common cyber attacks before they even get a chance to start. Okay, we've talked a lot about digital blueprints, but our fortress also has physical gates that need securing. I'm talking about things you can actually hold in your hand, like USB drives and external hard drives. They represent a very real, very tangible security challenge. So, what do you do when a device with sensitive data on it reaches the end of its life? Here's the crucial thing. Just hitting delete is nowhere near enough. That data can often be recovered. True security demands physical destruction, and different types of media require different methods, from degaussing a hard disk to physically grinding up a semiconductor chip. The takeaway is crystal clear. Protecting data means controlling its entire life cycle, right up to its complete and final destruction.
All right, our fortress is conceptually built. We have a foundation, we have architects, we have blueprints, and we have secured the gates. But how strong is it really? We can't just assume it's secure. We have to actually measure and evaluate its strength.
And this is where the cybersecurity maturity model comes in. It's a really practical tool that gives organizations a way to benchmark their security posture. It lays out 5 distinct levels, from incomplete all the way up to optimizing, which creates a super clear path for growth and improvement. So what do these levels actually mean? Well, an organization might start as incomplete or initial, where security is kind of chaotic and reactive. As it matures, it gets to the developing stage. You're doing the right things, but inconsistently. The real turning point is managing, where security becomes standard business practice. But the ultimate goal, the top tier, is optimizing, creating a culture of constant, deliberate improvement, always strengthening the walls of your fortress. So we've walked through the entire construction process, from the foundation all the way to the final assessment. And that brings us to our final question, something for you to think about. Your organization's fortress is built. How strong are its walls?